everyone! I've been doing some astrophotography with this fine piece of equipment, a Sony Alpha R3, 42 megapixels, wonderful camera, and I have different lenses. This time I decided to use the 30mm Sigma lens. It's a 1.4 lens, very fast, turns night into daylight with just 5-second exposure and ISO of 1250. Have a look. So this is typically what you would see with a cell phone, and this is with just 5 seconds of exposure. Just amazing. I love this new style of photography. I've been taking a lot of awesome pictures. Now, Friday night, I was relaxing in the backyard in the evening, and I saw the International Space Station come over the hill. And I went and grabbed my camera, took some pictures. It had passed right over San Diego. And then I wondered if I could see it on the next pass as well, because it was fairly clear, no clouds. And sure enough, it was quite high in the sky, about 15 degrees. And then, after 90 or so minutes, it was coming around again. And I said, wait a second, I wonder if I could see it, because it's fairly clear all the way into Canada. And the circle of visibility says that I should be able to see it even down here in Southern California. Now here's this incredible timeline, folks. We're seeing the International Space Station pass over Canada from like 1,500 mile to, I don't know, 1,200 to 1,500 mile distance. Just incredible. Have a look. Wasn't that exciting? Let's do a detailed analysis. The observation site is in the high desert, and I was intending to go out to the aqueduct site that I've been to before, because it has a nice view over Mojave Desert. But on the way there, I spotted this Walmart parking lot, and I decided to stop there. So the next day I went back and accurately determined the location where I was at, and also took some elevation measurements. Okay guys, so we're here. There's the Walmart. I did this door. Alright. There's the house. And I was behind this bush here. There's that corner rock. And let's see. That's about where that thing is right there. Alright, the level is right about there, but let's use dioptra. So I used an app called Dioptra on my cell phone to determine where zero elevation is at, and it's right above the solar panels and below the roof line. So this is a superposition of all the photos so we can see the trail. Quite awesome. Lots of information here. So let's analyze it closely. So I've looked at the information stored with each file and extracted the times when I took the photos. Now I took a photo of my cell phone so I could get the latitude and longitude of the station. And shortly after, I also took a movie and I extracted a clearer image of this movie. So the station did move slightly in the few seconds difference. So we're going to measure angles here. We know the time, so now we're going to measure the angles. And that's possible because I know exactly the focal length, 30 millimeters. I know the sensor size, the pixel, the pitch between the pixels. So we can accurately calculate the angle. And you'll be amazed. We'll be able to determine the velocity of the spacecraft. As you see here, we got 477 477 horizontal pixels. And let's do some calculations here. So the pitch is 4.5 micrometers. Okay. And we're going to divide by 0.03, so 30 millimeters, okay? And that's in radians, so we're going to convert that to degrees. Divide by pi times 180. And we get that number, so that's the, the angle that one pixel represents, okay? And I saved that in memory. Now let's multiply that by 477. So there you go, 4.1 degrees between those two observations there in 18 seconds. All right. So now let's divide by 180. That is, we're converting back to radians. And then let's multiply by the distance to the ISS, 1,300 miles. So we get about 93 miles. So that horizontal distance on the image represents 93 miles at 1,300 miles away. Now, because we know that, we can actually calculate the velocity because we have the time. Okay, so let me just annotate here. Now later, I determined the distance was actually closer, 1200, maybe 1150 at the highest altitude that it reached, right around there. And you'll see all that. So we get slightly better results. But there's a lot of information in these images, as it will become apparent as we're working through this. So I hope you guys are enjoying this detailed analysis, and let me know if you spot any mistakes. No matter how good we are, we always screw up something. And the critics will jump on that. They'll tear me up like rabid wolves, man. Okay, so here we go. So we got 93 miles. All right. Isn't that crazy? That's in Canada. Wow. Unbelievable. All right. So what am I doing now? I recorded these clips um, Sunday night, and now I'm editing and assembling everything. So now I'm dividing by 18 seconds, okay? So it's 5.16 miles per second. And now we'll multiply by 3,600 seconds in an hour to get miles per hour. Boom! There you go. Wow. 18,602. 18,000. That is very close to the 17,000 miles per hour. But we'll refine that number. And I notice here it clipped my video slightly. I'll have to adjust it. Anyway, so let's type that up. ISS velocity of 18,602 600 miles per hour. So see, from this distance we can determine the velocity. And of course that depends on our distance, and we know the distance from the ISS tracker app. So just incredible stuff, folks. So let's zoom out real quick in Google Earth just to get a sense of the distance here, because it's just incredible. We're seeing all the way into Canada. Look at that, just insane. Yeah, that thing is in Saskatchewan, just crossing the boundary there. So a good question to ask is the ISS at the claimed altitude? Per the stated altitude, this is the boundary of visibility. So supposedly you can see it all the way out to the edge of that red circle, given its altitude of 263 miles, and assuming a certain radius of the Earth. But as we know, those numbers are bogus, so the altitude is bogus as well. There's a lot of refraction in the upper thermal layers, plasma layers above the atmosphere. So things are a lot more complicated, folks. You'll see in my future presentation some shocking things. But let's get back to our image. So this is the final annotated image. Lots of information was extracted here. Notice I even extracted the direction towards the North Pole, celestial North Pole, based on the rotation of the stars there during the time lapse. We have the field of view. Now, a critical parameter here is the horizontal distance. 1 minute equals about 11 degrees. Do you see that towards the left? And I use that scale to approximate where the ISS should have been when I took the photo of the ISS tracker app on my phone. That's on the right side of the photo at 12:10:31. So we can see in the lower right the chimney is barely visible, probably 1/2 to 1/3 the chimney. And we'll use that later in a top view analysis. Also notice I've refined the velocity. That was based on 1200 mile distance to the ISS. Actually, before we do that, here's one other annotated photo. So I've put down the blue lines to sort of approximate how far the ISS is on the left. So when the elevation drops by about 4.32, that equates to about 300 mile change in range to the ISS. So if in the center it's about 1200, we add another 300, so we arrive at about 1500 mile. So that's what this illustrates. So now let's have a look at the top view analysis and the shocking result. So here's the shocker, folks. The globe model produces the wrong angular direction. It's off significantly by about 6 degrees, which is crazy. So notice the vectors there. Maximum elevation right in the direction towards the chimney of that pink house. First sighting in magenta color there, 50-degree field of view, and then the yellow dotted line is the edge of the photo, and notice that chimney on the other house. And so the ISS was when I took the photo of the ISS tracker app, was in the direction of the green line, and I moved the green line slightly to the right to be conservative. So then the direction towards the lat long of the ISS are shown there as well, extracted from Google Earth. So quite a difference, 6 degrees, folks. The reality of our world is very fascinating. The Almighty has allowed humanity to rise above the atmosphere and behold the world from a new perspective. But sadly, those in the know have been withholding the information from the public. The world is more interesting than we've ever thought before. But that's the subject of another presentation. We'll deal with the azimuthal equidistant map, and even though it's great for certain things, it has some shortcomings. Doesn't predict light in the crosshatch area with standard refraction models. So things are a little bit more complicated. So we'll look at Mercator and all these other projections later. But now sit back and enjoy this photo one more time.